Okay, nice one, guys. Brilliant. Okay, so we're recording now, so probably a good place for me to start the recording spiel. So first things first. Welcome Nathan to Rolling with Story. We're really happy to have you here. Thank you for coming on. I know we're across actually an entire ocean and some time zones between us, so we're really appreciative of that, of you helping us out coming on. Really good to have you.
The rare time of the year for I think 3 weeks out of the year with daylight saving time. We're 5 time zones instead of six.
Yeah, wow, there you go. There you
You
go.
feel closer already.
Yeah. Nice. Now, it seems like the planets have aligned for us to do this podcast, and I'm really excited for that. The first place we wanted to start really is sort of bit of a background and introduction maybe to sort of our relationship, which has been developed through online and discussions on Instagram. You obviously have your own podcast about the same niche as us, talking about TTRPG games and D&D. And I reached out to Nathan a good few months ago. I think it was before Christmas.
Yeah.
And you, rather than what most people would do, is send a normal message and say, oh, this is kind of, I was asking you for how would you build your podcast? How did you develop? Rather than that, you actually sent me probably about 10 minutes total of voice notes that were extremely helpful, and really helped us to immediately change our tactics online that have yielded a lot of success. So I just wanted to say thank you on air, on record, for how you've helped us with that, because that has been massive. Really massive. Yeah.
Yeah, it was back early December, I think, that we had sent that. And then me and my two co-hosts, Chase and Brent, who's Lang Mini Studios and Kilk, we're talking about what we do for year two and how do we grow, and our end of the year goals, at least, to try and become monetized some way or another.
It's a big goal, that monetization.
It is a big goal.
I look at the numbers and I'm like, whoa.
It's
so
a lot.
high.
It's a lot of hours, isn't it? It's a lot of hours, a lot of watch time. Well, I really hope this year's your year. You're going to get it. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. And I think this really is a great way of kind of segueing into the conversation of like, what got you into D&D and DMing in the first place? Is there a particular event? Was it a slow build? Like, what got you into it?
All the way back in 2009, when I very first started, I watched, I was surfing YouTube actually at the time and came across a movie by the production company Zombie Orpheus called The Gamers 2 Dorkness Rising.
Nice.
And it's a D&D movie of basically these three guys, and one of them invites their ex to come join their game. And just kind of it goes back and forth in between them playing the game and what their characters are doing, and just the antics. And went to my cousins and friends at the time. It's like, I want to try this game. And at the time it was 4th edition. And then it grew from there. I initially thought I was just going to be a player. And then I had one person in that group that was kind of a more rules lawyer type. I'm like, you'd be perfect for the dungeon master. He had no inclinations to becoming the dungeon master, and since then I pretty much run 95% of all my games that I've been part of.
You get forever DMs pretty
the
fast.
forever DM.
Yeah. Do you know, I got a bit of the Stockholm syndrome with the forever DM. Like, I started off like, oh well, I'll DM to get everyone in, and now I can't even play. I just love DM.
Yeah, you find it
so
tricky.
much. I just love it. I'm too completely absorbed with it.
I've done quite a lot of both, so I've played quite a lot of both. I started playing in your games, Connor, and then tried my hand at DMing in quite a bizarre situation. My first DMing attempt was our friend was DMing, and then he went, "Oh, I'm really tired, guys. I don't know if I can keep DMing this." And I was like, "What? But the story?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it." Took over. And then we just got on this crazy roll where we ended up like playing for like 10 hours and walking between our houses. Like, we paused midway and walked between our houses, and crazy stuff. But that was kind of my first step. And like you're saying, once the DM bug bites you, you can never get away from it. It's just too satisfying. I really, really love it. It's great.
I've always kind of been the aspiring writer or storyteller type, so the ability to kind of not be able to finish a novel, but certainly on a weekly basis tell a story with your friends and get that going and have them definitely like them do at least 75% of the work, I feel.
Yeah,
satisfying.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's interesting because I'm in a similar boat. Like, I really love writing too. Like, I love storytelling, and I do dabble in novels, like try and write manuscripts, and it's the same, isn't it? Like, there's a kind of loneliness to novels that I think is quite hard, but D&D captures that, just that joint storytelling where, as a DM, you can lay the foundations of a story and like NPCs and characters and do the bad guys, but you get to really react to the stories everybody else wants to tell, and that almost, as someone who loves storytelling, you get to kind of piggyback on their stories and like help them build their own. And I think that's what I just love about it, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I think as well as that, like talking about D&D is obviously important, but loving D&D is one thing. Making a D&D podcast is another thing.
It is.
What brought you to that decision?
That is actually a little bit more of a personal thing. So what is it? God. Back in October of 2023, was it 23? Yes, 2023, I lost my mother to cancer.
Oh.
And I just kept on playing just because this is a relaxing hobby. This is my escape. I never kind of took a break from it. And then come December, Chase or Kilk in our podcast is a esports coach for the local college. And they had students that needed project hours for like media projects and all this sort of stuff. And one of them was a social media major. And I am struggling with engagement with Instagram constantly, competing with TikTok, or I don't understand the nature of TikTok whatsoever. So if you can help me with the engagement of that, please. And I didn't have a YouTube at the time. And we got to talking about just like scheduling posts and kind of all the rhetoric, that kind of basic stuff. And I went through that. It's just they keep kind of changing the algorithm to compete with TikTok. And then me and him got to talking one night over Discord, and he's like, you've been playing for like 15, 16 years and you have like a ton of stories. He's like, have you ever thought about doing a podcast? And I'm like, if I could get some friends to do it, because I just don't want to monologue with myself. Yeah. And then I got a hold of two of my friends that I were playing with, and Chase joined instantly. And then I got a hold of my friend Brent, who is part of my play group. And he was going through his own things, like in life. And he's like thanked me several times since for joining this podcast, is because of the ability to actually put, an expertise in something to use and make yourself feel useful in a hobby has done a world for him.
Yeah, I think it does a lot. It's that kind of goal-driven mindset, I guess. It kind of gives you something to aim for. Like, I find that with it quite a lot. Like, you're always aiming up. You're aiming to kind of make... It's a goal thing, I guess, for me as well. Yeah, I think I can see that.
It's definitely, I'd say... Like, when you're recording a podcast, it's way different than you're talking about D&D and you're talking about tabletop gaming for sure, but it's a different nature of the beast altogether, because then you're sharing kind of your own stories, your own expertise, and then you sometimes have people that will comment and disagree with you and all that, but it's all points of view and all that, and we're all trying to achieve the same thing and just have fun at a table.
Yeah,
I love that.
It really resonates what you said actually about sort of adverse life events and how these sorts of things can kind of bring you together with your friends. I know D&D between me and you, Connor, kind of kept us afloat during COVID, didn't it? Where
for sure.
Things were crazy, and we live apart anyway. We haven't lived in the same. In fact, we've never lived in the same city, but we got to stay in touch through that, and it really helped our friendship group. It's really helped us through some big like kind of life changes and life events. And you know, I cannot recommend it to anybody like more. I love playing games with my friends. Podcasting is so satisfying. You can express awesome things to yourself. You can and each other. You can explore topics that like it's hard to do in a short form video. Or over text. You can kind of really explore things. So that's really cool. That's really, really cool. And I'm really glad that you've got that outlet. That sounds brilliant. Carrying on from that again, and kind of a more recent thing, is I saw you post about that new game that you played, or that new book. What was it called?
Morkborg, yes.
Morkborg, yeah. What's going on with that? Can I ask about that? Cool.
That is apparently I think a Swedish or a Danish RPG, which is more of an OSR, and I'd got invited to the Great Plains Gaming Festival by a local that lives about an hour from here. Shout out to Chris Martinez, who actually has participated in a couple of my giveaways, which is half the reason why I do them, is just to kind of network with people or talk to them or get in their inbox. And he invited me out to it, and then I saw that on the list of things, and I've heard people talk about, well, as we know, especially within the last year and a half with the OGL, the kind of branch out to the different systems, kind of the exodus away from, Wizards of the Coast. And that was one of the ones I've always wanted to try, and I had like so much fun playing it. It's literally a one-page character sheet, as opposed to like several pages.
Yes.
And it's just easy.
Nice. Yeah. That sounds fun. That sounds really, really fun. We kind of get we do branch out a bit, don't we? We've played a bit of Call of Cthulhu and things like that, which are all really fun. Really, really fun. But I'm looking to branch out more. So maybe Connor, we should hook ourselves up one of those. Definitely. That sounds good. That sounds really, really good.
Call of Cthulhu was fun because I got to play their introductory adventure, The Haunting, with my group. And I basically force-fed them every stereotypical... Because I'm a giant horror and sci-fi and fantasy fan. So I got to force-feed them every haunted house trope that I could just throw.
Stick in.
And it's the only time I've ever seen Brent, who's also my co-host, actually visibly like get spooked at the table.
Yeah. Wow. That's good DMing. That's good.
That is good DMing.
If he's getting spooked. That's awesome. Do you play in person?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. That's really nice.
Yeah. The goal eventually, once I get they have Google Fiber coming into my local area. Once that internet connection, it's a lot more steady. Going to do a little bit more online play and kind of joining things like that.
Nice.
That'd be sick. Yeah.
We've blended the two a bit, Connor, haven't we? We've played a lot online. Played a lot online during COVID and throughout. We do like big episodes. We'll do a big meet up and we'll have some drinks and like get really into it. Which is in playing live, there is nothing like it. It's the immersion is so complete. It really is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
awesome. When you're around the table, I mean, like, we've played online for so long now, we've kind of become experts at it. There was a kind of golden age back in, like, a couple of campaigns ago where we were all in person, and it was, well, apart from Sam, who's always kind of emailed in, but, like, called in. There was a bit of a golden age, but we've always been online, and I think it's like a muscle you stretch, and we've got so good now at being able to read people's like facial expressions from online that we can all really take our turns and like we can see body language through the screen. But like those in-moment sessions, I wish we all lived closer because they are so powerful. Some of the most amazing moments are when we're in person. You feel the body language, you get that tension between people, sometimes where it's like player on player kind of conflict and you can feel the tension in the room, or whether it's like an emotional bit at the end of our last campaign. There was a beautiful moment where Sam's character had almost lost his mind and he was seeing another character as almost his dead son, and there was this moment where they touched hands across the table, and it was this beautiful moment while fighting the big boss, and they had this moment of kind of like loss, and we were able to capture that in person, and for a second everybody around that table was there in that moment seeing it together. And I think you can't get that over. You can sometimes, but that in person is just you can't beat that sometimes.
Yeah, it is so poignant, isn't it? It is so poignant.
I recently got to do that a couple months ago. For anyone that's been following my podcast, we kind of go between advice videos and just kind of talking about our own home game, and then we kind of sprinkle in advice stuff throughout there. And Brent, who's playing a paladin, throughout the campaign, he started out as a half elf, got intellect devoured, and then made a deal to get resurrected. And came back as a tiefling. Wow. And he finally, after the big main quest storyline, got home to his family because he was rescuing his mother. And finally ran into his mother, and then they had that kind of reunion. And then that moment when I explained to him, she looks at him, and she's always been the good parent as opposed to the dad who's not the best parent by any means. She cups his face and just says, you'll always be my son, no matter what you look like. Oh. And that just drove it home for him.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
That's just thinking about those, as you're saying that, I'm thinking how I would DM that, how I'd do my body language. I'm just I get so nervous. Just instantly put me in that moment of when you're trying to do that and you're I thought about trying to deliver that to somebody and make that really impactful.
It's hard
because you feel before that, and you're okay, I've got to be a mother. I've got to be talking to my son.
I've been doing this for 16 years, and I was doing that, and my chair sits a little bit lower than this, but my hand was for whatever reason during that moment, just because it was such an intense moment, was shaking a bit.
Yeah. It's the performance. It's like being on stage or playing music. You're locked in. There's the adrenaline, there's the excitement, and it's that kind of plug-in that's just so strong. I wanted to carry on for something you said, Connor, about the nerves of being the mother, and I just want this again on record. Connor's female voices are very good. He works on them. He has some really good ones. He has some really good ones. Yeah, I find that hard. That's one thing I find tricky is I end up defaulting to the same female voice a lot. So I've tried to vary that, but I think it's just an experience thing, isn't it? It's about exploring different kind of ways of approaching things, different accents, different kind of cadence, those sorts of things, which for roleplay can be quite fun to explore. I find.
I can only really do different tones. I can't do a female voice. I can make my voice softer the way I talk softer, and that's kind of the way I do it. Because if I try and do a female voice, I sound like I'm on Monty Python.
He's not the Messiah. He's a really naughty boy.
Yes.
Okay, amazing.
He's not my king.
Yeah.
Some lovely filth down here, Dennis. Amazing. I love that. Yeah, it's tough. I know that I don't think. I guess for. Yeah, accents are a thing maybe not everyone does because they are a little bit. Sometimes you do have to practice them. I'm a bit of a. I love doing accents. They're not good, by the way. I just want to let everyone know they're not good. They're probably quite insulting, maybe a little bit racist, and maybe I shouldn't do them. But I tried to do them to because I just want to differentiate the characters. Sometimes I really giving someone a strong accent or voice can really pull them apart and make them stand out from somebody else. They go, oh, we recognise Kaz the Blade Breaker because he has a bit of a Russian accent and it's deeper and it's lower. And whenever I do that accent, they'll go, oh, it's Kaz. And I try to make that happen, but I can understand why people wouldn't.
I think what you said about accents can be contentious, but there's actually something that Matt Mercer said which really has always stuck with me, which was somebody asking him about them because he obviously does great ones, and he was the problem with doing accents isn't doing Russian accents or an Indian accent or a Scottish accent. It's if you typecast all the bad guys to have Russian accents. That's the problem. And if your only dwarves you have only have Scottish accents, could there be dwarves that have Welsh accents? Could there be dwarves that have American accents? It's about variance. No one's trying to offend anybody else, but it's about there's a tactful way of doing it, isn't there? But it's fun. It's about adding flavour to characters. There's a reason why in films actors put on different accents. Is because it puts a person from a different place, which that's what acting is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Interesting. Now,
Interesting.
the last piece before the segue, I think, will be asking about like what's the kind of, have you had previous campaigns that are long running before? I know you've got one at the moment. You said that she's like in the region of finishing soon. Have you had kind of campaigns that you've closed off before, ones you've finished?
To answer
We
your
can re-ask.
question,
We can re-ask it.
yeah,
Should we,
I
should
have
we
a
re-ask
question.
them?
I wanted to go back previously to you're talking about voices first.
Yeah.
I heard a
Absolutely.
great piece of advice from Brendan Mulligan.
What guy?
Actually, even if you're doing voices, like let's say you're doing a bad Arnold Schwarzenegger or Christopher Walken, even if it's a bad version of that, your players now know that's a unique voice for that character because that person is a bad Christopher Walken or a bad Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Yes.
and they know it's Schwarzenegger, but now it's Joe so and so that's a bad Christopher Walken as opposed to Christopher Walken.
Can he even
And then you were
doppelganger?
asking something about the campaign finale.
Yeah. So what I was thinking about with the campaign is, you said you have got a current campaign, and you said it's not too far away from a kind of final episode sort of
2
thing.
months.
2 months.
Months. That's
At
close.
least that's
There's
the
a
goal.
question there as well, because I finished a couple, and I always say 2 months, 2 months, and then it's like 6 months. So, like, have you got experience with like? Do you think you'll do it? Have you got it mapped out, planned, or?
Well, they are in quotations, I guess, the final dungeon.
Oh, right.
They are fighting, or well, going to go fight, and in quotations, Elder One. They're
Okay.
traveling. Literally, they are in the far realm at the moment to get through a different point because they've like this Elder One is in the Underdark, or in my campaign setting, it's Svartalfheim from Norse mythology, and they've put a ring around this area of Svartalfheim, which you have to travel through the far realm to get to them. So they are in the moment of fighting mind flayers and whatever I want to Frankenstein monsters I want to throw at them.
Also, the Elder One is badass.
That is cool. Yeah, that's cool.
I love
That's
that.
cool.
It's
The Elder One is so good.
based after a 3rd edition monster called the Overseer, which in 3rd edition, this Overseer was a beholderkin. I found this thing like 4 or 5 years ago. This thing has the ability to control up to like 20 beholders.
Oh
no.
So,
no.
and it does it with like a hive mind ability. So
Wow.
I just imagine this big mastermind arching over Elder One that's just like, okay, the hero stopped me now. I'll wait a couple more decades and then.
Yeah. Age you out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's cool. That is super cool. So 2 months. How often do you play? Every week?
Every other week. So I'm guessing probably by early June-ish.
Nice.
Probably 4 or 5 sessions to get them through some fights, depending upon unless they all just like really go on a side tangent, then it might go longer.
Yeah. Which players tend to do.
Which they do, yeah. Are they all level like 20-ish? Are you ending around 20 or
level
are you
19?
Nice.
Okay. You'll level 20 them before the
and then
end,
once
or a
they
couple
get
episodes?
through the far realm, they'll be 20. And then once they're in that kind of little Svartalfheim Underdark bubble, they'll be 20. So they'll get 2 or 3 sessions there, and then
Sweet.
Is that milestones then? Do you like you're like
Yeah.
okay, once your milestones is the way. Milestones is the way.
it's too much math for the experience anymore.
100%.
There's already enough
100%.
math. Like let's dial
Yeah.
that back.
It also if you do XP, it tends towards the RuneScape, like just let's kill chickens for 3 hours and just farm XP. Like that's not what it's about, is it? I totally back the milestone. So the main topic we wanted to discuss, as well as obviously introducing, which has been absolutely awesome to hear what you've got to say about your podcast and your background, is to kind of pick your brain and discuss it generally of how to finish a campaign. Now, from what we're saying, all of us have finished a campaign at some point or have experience in that area. So I'm really excited to pick your brains. When you start a campaign, do you have an idea or a few options of how it's going to end, or do you leave it pretty loose?
This was actually the first campaign where I found this overseer creature, and it's like, that's the final boss.
Nice.
However you guys get there, that's the final boss.
Yeah.
And then it led to that. Previously, let's see, I've had the very first campaign I ever did was a Tiamat one, and then
Nice.
but that wasn't initially she wasn't initially planned. We were just kind of thumbing through that because that was the very first campaign. The second campaign floundered, unfortunately, and then the third
Happens.
campaign they ended up fighting Orcus.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah, and then floundered a bunch of bad campaigns for about a decade, and this will probably, and then started up this new homebrew setting where it was Nordic, so the people stopped Ragnarok because we had one.
Cool.
We had a player who was in quotations a son of Loki, and
Nice.
he didn't know anything about Norse mythology. So about a third of the way through the campaign, in Norse mythology, Loki's chained to a rock off in this extra dimensional area with his, because he, in quotations, Charlie Manson's Balder basically indirectly killed him.
Yeah, he gets the blind god to shoot him, doesn't he, with the mistletoe arrow?
Well, he didn't pull the arrow, but he definitely
he
got
gave it
Oder
to him.
to.
Yeah, aim it here, aim it here. Yeah.
So, I go and have this giant monologue built out to this character, or to this player about, why you should free me and all this, and you're my son, all this sort of stuff. And in the middle of me monologuing, he goes, I untie him. I'm like, what?
But my monologue.
He goes, yeah, I just untie it. It don't matter. He's my dad. I'm like, and I have Brent, who's a major Norse mythology buff. He's just sitting there, and looks like he just messed himself. Just like, you just started the end of the world.
Wow, that's cool though. I like that. That's
the kind of thing you do when you're DMing and you're trying not to let the grin slip onto your face. Like, oh, you untie him. Oh, good. Yes.
Yeah.
And it was already kind of one quest line, and I'm like, well, I guess we're going this way now, because I didn't actually fully expect you to just interrupt my monologue and untie him.
Yeah. Players throw spanners in the works all the time, and I think that's one of my favorite things about D&D, to be honest, is how you think it will go one way and then it goes every other way except the way you thought, which is really, I think, satisfying and stimulating as a DM perspective. I'm sure you guys agree with that. Now, Connor, you have ended 3 campaigns in the same setting, which is an interesting thing because not everybody gets to do that. Did you always have a plan for how it was going to end in each campaign?
So it was really interesting what Nathan said, because I've done the same thing every single campaign. So I get a BBG in mind. I get something that that big bad. So last one was, I wanted to make, we've talked about this in the last couple of episodes, but I wanted to make a Giga Tyrant. There's so much going on now of tyrants, and the tyrants art, tyrant kind of archetype that I was I want to make this huge tyrant who's going to be the king of kings, and he's going to Osmandius this whole world basically. So it starts with that, and then I know that that's going to be the bad guy, and then I get all my characters, and then I somehow attach this BBG to each one in a little way, something maybe quite small that will eventually pull the strings, so I can spider start pulling the strings towards the kind of BBG, or I make the BBG so big that it kind of messes into all the other different stories. And that's how I'll try and drag them. Not drag them, that sounds like I'm railroading. I wouldn't do that. No, not at all.
You still have to drag them sometimes, don't you?
Yeah. I'm trying to be nice, but it's subtle dragging, subverted dragging that manipulation, one might say.
I've told people and done a couple of panels at conventions where I explain, it's like, here's your story, and it is a railroad, and they'll take you this way. Always. They will always take you this way, or they'll always take you that way. But it's your job to kind of just lead them back
Yeah,
to
that's
where
nice.
you originally had planned. It might not be originally what you had planned, but
Yeah.
you're leading them back just kind of like a shepherd.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. Actually, you've summed that up how I once said that. Is it? It's that, like, they go off, don't they? And then you go, okay, how can I use that tangent to the best of its ability? Okay, what tools or what kind of stimulus has this tangent given me? Could that work in my favor for the story I want to tell as well? And it's like taking the stimulus of the player and then playing with it and melding it back into your kind of story. That's summed up perfectly. Yeah.
The other thing I've heard is like you're just like braiding storylines like a rope, and occasionally players will throw in an entire new string, and you got to figure out how to braid that in.
Okay, that one's good as well, to be honest. Yeah. Like, oh yeah. And are you a note taker, Nathan? Do you keep Are you
not extensive by any means?
What's your note process look like as a DM as you're going through to try and keep the knot weaving? How do you keep the knot weaving? I think is how I'm going to ask.
Most of the time, I have like a master list of like at least the NPCs because I am real bad about remembering names, especially just like really one-off ones. I had them running into a vampire lord, and I named all 3 guards, and one of the players got attached to one of the guards, and I'm just like, and they're like, it's Giorgio. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, it was Giorgio. It was.
Exactly right. Yeah. I remember that.
But yeah, that's most of my note taking is just keeping a list of the NPCs, or just like the kind of. I've tried it so many different ways. I've tried to do bullet points of like where I want the story to go, and that just out the door. It's just mostly mental, and then recaps.
Mind palace is what you're saying.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Just mind balancing everything. Yeah, great.
You almost have to.
Yeah.
And then being a ADD overthinker person that just stays there. So
Yeah.
Nice.
I stew on it. I think about it so much that it becomes entrenched, and like, what I do is I write notes and then I just never read them again. It's really stupid. Like I write them down for ages, and then I'm like, I glance at one bit of it again, maybe 3 episodes later, just to check the NPC's name or that city that I made. There's so many times I'm describing a city and people go, "Man, there was no mountain there." Like, there is now. You never saw the mountain before. You never noticed it.
So one of the things that me, Brent, and Chase talked about last year of like year 2 plans, and one of them personally for me besides the podcast is putting together our campaign setting into like a guide.
Cool.
And he's like, do you, like off your 16 years of like experience, do you have like anything? And I'm like, and I pointed to the corner of my game room and there's a 40-gallon tote full of papers.
Nice.
I'm like, yeah, it's all in there. I am that crazy dude. Yeah, that has a box full of just random scrap paper.
Yes.
There's something in here, I'm sure. Some type of cities, characters. I know where everything is.
Nice.
And I've gone through it multiple times, and that's the great thing. Like, they don't use the mountain, let's say.
Yeah.
You go through, and they're getting ready to go to a different mountain or something like that in a future campaign. And I'll go to that tote. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that mountain. Let's recycle that.
Yes.
Yeah, recycling.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that is so important. Recycle everything.
Yeah, that
Really
is the way.
recycle.
You've just got to do it. Take cool bits, and sometimes the situation you thought that thing would be cool in, it's actually cooler the next time when you'd left it for a year, and then suddenly it finds its way back, and you're like, oh my, the storyline, it's coming back, it's back, and then you can throw it back in. They think it's seamless, and really it's janky as hell, but it gets back in there.
About 3/4 of the way this campaign, I had like this idea of like the big 3 overpowering like kind of people, these factions just meeting up all together at the group while they're at this big fight, like not final point, but our overarching point of the campaign. And they went totally a different way with it. of course, and end up only 2 of the 3. They end up taking out one of the major powers, and then 2 of the 3 were there. I'm just like, this is actually way better than what I originally had planned anyway. So
yeah, it's being
because
open
they've
to
like
that.
it,
Yeah,
because you got to build off the player choices, and that like if,
100%.
when you're talking about like the player campaign finale, it's like these to kind of pull them into your finale more. You got to like build that on those player choices is like the foundation of like your pyramid of Giza finales.
And like doing that, like going off there, what they want, and kind of building that into the story and weaving it makes them more engaged with the story itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you've ever tried to like force your own thing, go no, we're going this way. This is what we're doing. The players will quickly disengage and pull back and be like, well, this isn't the story I want to tell. And I think DMing is so much. DMing is like letting go and just being like, okay, go do your thing, do this, tell the stories you want to do. And my job, like you said, is weaving those stories together, and everyone gets to tell, because the players will tell you what they want the most, and as a DM really you're kind of facilitating their game and them enjoying themselves. So it's really that kind of, we talk about this quite a lot, it's like the reactionary DMing, and it's like so important to be constantly reacting to the players. And I think that's why notes go out the window so often, because we can plan everything we want to plan, but the most alive the world will, to make the world feel most alive, is when you are reacting to the stimulus of the players constantly and constantly adapting. Hi everybody, it's Connor here from Rolling Story. I hope you're doing well. You've just finished the first part of our interview with Nathan, aka Hermit, Crazy Hermit DM. I hope you enjoyed. This conversation went on for a lot longer than we expected, our normal time slot. So we've broken it up into 2 parts to keep the suspense going. We really enjoyed recording this one. So I'm here to just say that, and see you in 2 weeks for the next half of the episode. Keep on rolling, guys.